Well, there have been many fictional detectives, Hercule Poirot, Maigret, even Clouseau, but none seem to have captured people's imagination like Sir Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes and partner Dr. Watson. The latest theatrical partnership in these roles is Jeremy Brett and Edward Hardwicke, who have starred successfully on both television and now at the Wyndham's Theatre in London. Wyndham's Theatre in London. Let's see them now in action.
How do you find the word grotesque?
Grotesque? Oh, strange? Remarkable?
No. Surely there's more to it than that. Some underlying suggestion of the tragic, the terrible. If you cast your mind back to those narratives with which you've inflicted a long, suffering public, you will see how often the word grotesque has deepened into the criminal.
I suppose the affair of the red-headed men was grotesque enough at the outset.
Huh?
Oh, that most grotesque affair. The 5 orange pips.
Yes, which led straight to a murderous conspiracy. Another word puts me on the alert.
Oh, haven't you there?
I've just had the most incredible and grotesque experience.
Holmes and Watson, Jeremy Brett and Edward Hardwicke.
Hello.
They have enjoyed enormous success. All the stories have enjoyed enormous success. What do you put that down to?
I think probably the miracle that Granada achieved was by doing the original stories. I think it was dreamt up by Michael Cox way back in 1973, our producer, really to put literature straight in regard to Dr. Watson. Because not the duffer anymore, but the good friend, the gentleman, the medic and the soldier, not the duffer. And I think by doing the stories, I'm finding that they actually stood up to the test of film.
But it really is an extraordinary relationship between these two men, isn't it? They are very close.
Yes, they're clubmen. I mean, I think one is a very private creature, isolated. They're both very lonely people at the beginning of the books, and they meet because they can't afford the rent.
Do you think it's also this sort of Superman image that Sherlock Holmes has? I mean, he solves everything.
I think he intrigues Watson with the speed of light of his deduction and logic. And I think that it becomes apparent, I think, especially during this play that we're doing now at Wyndham's Theatre.
Wyndham's,
It's
yes.
You were at school, the place
At
called
Wyndham, yes.
Wyndham's Theatre, it's because I think we're exposing the friendship, we're releasing the friendship through a little bit more. Also, we're very lucky, Edward and I, because we played the parts for 2.5 years together. And I'm not bored of it at all yet, because I haven't learned how to play him.
So I was going to say, I mean, 5 years you've done it on television and 3 years, Edward.
Yes.
Is there anything different for you, Edward, about doing it now in the theatre?
Well, I mean, the main difference is just a completely different medium. And you are concentrating for 2 hours on a play, whereas with the filming, it's a day-long job and it goes on and on and on. It's just a very different feeling. I think it's an enormously enjoyable experience, just doing something different.
Did you realise the success until you went into the theatre?
No, I must be truthful, I didn't. I have been working since some sort of isolation in studio work, filming, for 5 years, and when we went to the public marketplace, which is what the theatre is, suddenly to find that there were children out front, I wasn't sure what the audience was. And I know we sold to 75 countries and were translated into every kind of language under the sun. And I'm thrilled. I mean, I still can't believe that. But I am beginning to be aware of the fact that because of the children, that it appeals to a much wider range of people than I thought. 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds are sitting there glued to the play. And they come around afterwards, and I've always thought Holmes was a sort of damaged penguin or a kind of black beetle. I never thought he was heroic at all.
Yeah.
I wouldn't cross the road to meet him.
But there's also this amazing thing, don't you think, that Agatha Christie wrote about Hercule Poirot, but nobody ever thought that Hercule Poirot was real. But they do believe in Holmes and Watson, don't they? I mean, do you get letters to you as real people?
Well, not exactly as real people, but I certainly think the characters are very real to a lot of people. And I think it's partially because Conan Doyle, rather like, it's a different kettle of fish in a way, but Ian Fleming did with James Bond, his detail and the precise detail of actual places and things, which are mentioned in the stories, somehow give it a terrific sense of reality, a terrific sense of Victorian and Edwardian London.
I remember when Sir Alistair Cook said to me many years ago, about 1981, before we started, he said that the three most memorable people in the last 100 years are Churchill, Hitler and Sherlock Holmes. Now, this was meant to encourage me. I was terrified. I thought, that's really done it now. I mean, I didn't want to play the part in the first place. I thought I would fail, because there have been so many people playing it before. But to think that one of those three people never existed at all is extraordinary. I mean, the fan mail we get is to Edward and Jeremy, but they get at Baker Street, 221B Baker Street, the National Abbey Bank, letters to Sherlock Holmes asking him to solve cases. And they write back and say, Mr. Holmes is retired and living in Kent beekeeping.
Are you enjoying being caught up in this? I mean, as I said, 5 years on television and now starring in
I have to confess,
in the West
I'm
End.
basking in it now. I didn't enjoy it. I was very poorly for a while, and I found him an enormous strain to play. He is a very dark, private man, and you have to really drain yourself out, because I'm much too ebullient for the part. It would be very bloodless. And I found that a great strain. But now we're in the theatre with this wonderful pink success, as I call it, amazing response, and we're taking it around the world. We're playing till next September at Wyndham's, and then we're taking it very slowly around the world. I think we're bringing it to Birmingham, I'm hoping. And then I think Manchester, and then the States. So it's a lovely, yes, good time.
But anybody going to see it is not to expect a real whodunit.
It's all the deduction, it's all the clues, but the case happens as the play ends. What you get is their relationship, and you learn, during the course of the play, much more about them. There's a lot of deduction, a lot of sleuthing, and then in the second half, Jeremy Paul, our brilliant writer, has given us a coup de théâtre, which is the secret. And it's a part of Holmes's life which has not been revealed. And it's a very exciting, dramatic moment, and I'm very happy that Ted's on stage with me to get me off every night.
Edward, your Dr. Watson is far more of a rounded whole creature. Jeremy mentioned before that he's very often played as a bit of a buffoon, a bit of a bumbler.
Yes, I think that dates from the early films, which I love, and I think they had a validity then, because it was the war, and I think there was an attempt to use the stories in some ways as propaganda to encourage the Americans to join us in the Second World War in a minor way. But times have changed, and I think one has to start from the premise that he's a doctor, and that's a difficult job for anybody. Also, I think being a doctor to some extent is being a detective, and I think that's part of the appeal that he has for Holmes. But it's doing the play is very different, because Jeremy Paul has taken a slightly different direction with it, and that makes it very, very interesting.
Do you see yourself becoming another mousetrap, an establishment in the West End of London?
I tell you, you know, this business we're in, this profession we're in, it's hard enough to survive, let alone have a success. So when one has a success, although it's not a very palatable word in this country, they're much more fond of it in the States, I'm enjoying every giddy moment of it. I'm loving having people outside the stage door. I'm loving being with my friend Edward, because we're best friends off as well as on. We're having a ball.
Great. We look forward to seeing it in Birmingham. Edward Hardwicke, Jeremy Brett, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.